Alright, so this is the first video I'm doing on this truck that I bought. So what it is a 2006 Silverado 3500. It was a dually. It's not a dually anymore. Guy put a regular bed on it and the 16-inch aluminum wheels. The reason I bought it was because one, it's a Duramax, and two, it's Zf6 manual transmission. So that's the only reason why I went to look at it in the first place. It was priced relatively cheap with lower kilometers. Has 283 on it, I think, 283, something like that. So I went to look at it. Things a little rough. As you can tell, right now I'm in the midst of doing this side, the rockers and cab corners. They are, they're barely hanging in there. So that's gonna be fixed. I just did the other side already, and before that I stripped the entire bed, underside of the bed, cleaned it. It wasn't terrible. I replaced, there's a bit of rust here in these pictures. You can see obviously what I did. So that's no rust, it's not going to rot. I'm not going to bother body working this because I'll put the flares back on it. So there's no rust, it's good enough. It'll look fine with the flares. Painted the underside of the bed and the frame. I used a needle scaler, cleaned the entire frame, just did under the cab and in the front wheel wells. Today I just went and picked up some Southern fenders. Southern fenders, they're white. I will have to paint them, obviously, but look at that. Absolutely no rust, no dents. They weren't too cheap, 500 bucks, but you can see these ones, they look, they don't look half bad. There's a little rust there I just hit with some primer. But you get in here, I've already wire wheeled this, taken the inner fender out, but not great. The other side's even worse. The other side you can feel there's nothing here, it's just right to the flare. So I'll paint them. I'm gonna get another door. I've got one sourced already. Didn't have these tow mirrors, got them for 100 bucks. No power, no nothing. This truck's bare bones. Not too bad on the seats, but this side of the floor is rotted out. So I got a patch panel from the wreckers that's in decent shape, and then gonna have to do a bit more there. It had side steps on it, took them off so I can access this easier, but they were kind of beat. So that's what I'm doing bodywork wise. This side I just finished last week. You can see every spot where there's a little rock chip or a little bubble of rust, I wire wheeled and then sanded down, hit it with some primer, replaced the rocker from about here back. Should have done the whole thing, but I've still got the full thing, so in a couple of years I'll do it probably, but it wasn't terrible. Replaced the cab corner. Here's this fender, you can see. It's even worse. Bone stock, Zf6 Duramax. Runs pretty good. Starts up after a couple weeks, no problem. Like 2 cranks and then it's going. No smoke. A little bit of haze at first, but this truck has been off the road for a couple of years, and that is because the transmission was broken. If you know these ZF transmissions, they like to crack right where the transfer case bolts on to the transmission. So this one was like that. When I got it, the transfer case was actually sitting on the cross member. It was completely sheared off. So I learned how to TIG weld cast aluminum. I had a pretty good knowledge on regular aluminum, but I've never done cast aluminum, so that was a little tricky. Some spots it welded like regular aluminum, other spots it was terrible. But got that. I built a brace in the top and then threw that in. Okay, so I just got it welding. There's no point showing how to weld it. If you want to, there's plenty of videos how to weld cast aluminum. But yeah, I preheated, cleaned it really well with some thinner, and preheated and post-heated, and then wrapped it in a blanket after, so it cooled down slowly. I added as much reinforcement as I could to areas that I thought it needed it, and built it up in areas where it was thin. Obviously not great in some spots, but then other spots it welded half decent. But that's just the inconsistencies in the cast, which isn't fun to deal with. But I got it, and I'm going to try it, see how it works, and we'll go from there. I also built a brace. They went like $200 for a brace, so I just built one. And then painted the cross member while I'm at it. I've got a new seal for the transfer case, and then yeah, I'm gonna try. I'll put a bit of silicone around here on the transmission, and then see if I can get it installed. I'll have to be careful, make sure there's little ears that are lined up. Other than that, just make sure everything goes in smoothly. Don't force anything, I guess. But yeah, pretty much the entire perimeter I needed to weld. I could have built it up in some more areas, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, wasn't that fun to weld. It took me about a day and a bit with prep and stuff. So yeah, I was able to do it myself at work with the AC TIG welder. It's pretty much the only way you can do it. So yeah, we'll see if I can't get it installed, and then I'll show you how far I've got when I've got it in the truck and what it took to do that. Alright, so I just got it pretty much installed. It's fit up all the way around, nice tight gap. I took out this detent and then the other one for the reverse thingy, I think it is, on the other side. And then got it on a little bit, tried to line up the gear that's right here with the other gear as best as I could. Felt to where it would want to go in and try to line up to where the dowels are. Then I gave it a good push, kind of bracing my shoulder on the cross member here for the torsion bar, and then pushing that way. Obviously it went a little bit. Then I started some bolts in it just so it wouldn't back off, just till they touched the case. There's still about 1/4 inch gap to 3/8 gap in there. And then I kept pushing, and then used a little rubber mallet, and it had no problem going on all the way. So yeah, now I'm just gonna reinstall this and tighten up the other detent, and throw some more bolts in it. Maybe not in that order, but I'll probably put bolts in it first, and then tighten up the other stuff. And then I will put the transfer case on. I am waiting for a seal for that, but I might put it on anyway and then do the seal after, just to get a little further ahead here. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. This I thought it was going to be a pain to take out. I heated up the case and used a pipe wrench, because I didn't have a wrench that big enough. But it came out no problem. Same with the 7/8 on the other detent. So things are going well here. Gonna tighten up all the bolts, and then we'll see what we get to later. Alright, just did a bunch of work. Transfer case is on, all the bolts are in tail housing. The brace that I made is up there, installed. next what I'm going to do is I got to jack this up a little bit more and get the cross member in here, but first I'm going to clean out the frame. In there there's like some sand and dirt, and then put the cross member in and bolt it up. I'm still waiting for the rear seal on the transfer case, so I might get to that, I might not. It's not too hard to pull the drive shafts back out and do it later, but I kind of want to see if this fix works. Obviously I got to get some oil for the transmission. Probably just going to use some synthetic ATF Dextron 3, I think, or something like that. Anyway, we will update you later. To drive it, took it around, but there was still a vibration. Which I thought was this. Thought maybe it might have been motor mounts because the engine was shaking quite a bit, but I also noticed the clutch was slipping. So in third gear when I floored it, it felt like the tires were spinning, but definitely it was the clutch. So I ordered a flywheel and clutch for it because chances are it's probably the original dual mass flywheel, which is, you know, failing. This truck has a 4-inch exhaust, straight pipe, still has the cat. It's kind of pieced together, so after a little while I'll probably replace from here up to the downpipe. And then you can see here, not much left of the rockers. Gonna have to fabricate something for the inner rocker. Cleaned all in here, took these body mounts off, but you can see the floor here, kind of got the Fred Flintstone brakes going. I deleted the fuel cooler because the line was leaking, so I just bypassed it. It was just on the return, so that'll fix it for a little while. Might have to do fuel lines at some point. With the rear axle, it needed new calipers because the bleeders were seized in, they couldn't bleed them out, which is what I was told. So I tried to take them out, but they just stripped, so I just said screw it. So new calipers and new parking brakes. The parking brakes were completely gone in it, and this side the adjuster was falling out and was rattling around inside there. So did that, did new hub seals, new gear oil. So as I'm working on this now, I'm going to get the bodywork pretty much done. It's not going to be show quality, but it'll be one color, and it won't be, well, it won't be this. It'll be, you know, one color and not rusty. So right now what I'm going to do is cut out this side, that side. When I was welding the cab corner in, I may or may not have lit the insulation on fire inside of here and started a small fire, which you can kind of see a little bit there. It got into the seat a tiny bit, so that's kind of unfortunate, but oh well. This side, I will remove this as much as I can and have a bucket of water on standby. For what it is, it's not bad, and it'll be a sweet truck once it's done. Obviously I got it for a good deal because you know how hard they are to find replacement tail housings for these. So with my skill, I took a gamble on it to see if I could weld it, and it seems to be paid off. I will build another brace for the bottom of the transfer case, I believe. So I'll have the top brace and the bottom brace. Shouldn't need it, but just to be safe, I think I'll do that. And then eventually I'll remove the cat, remove the EGR, and then it came with the tuner switch in it. Well, I didn't know that come off, but yeah, so it's got the 5-position switch. So get that tuned into it. It's not tuned into it now. I tried when I was driving it.